In this video, we're going to talk about the differences between pre-need insurance versus burial insurance, aka final expense insurance. And what are the differences and what's right for you? My name is Destiny Kelleher. I'm an independent licensed insurance advisor and owner of Kelleher Insurance. Now, what is pre-need and what is burial insurance? And pre-need insurance is designed basically, in most cases, you would get from a funeral home. Meaning you would buy a list of services offered by that funeral home. Sometimes maybe it would include a burial plot, and sometimes it doesn't. So you really have to understand when you go into a funeral home what they are offering. And in most cases, it is funded through a limited pay life insurance policy. All funeral homes are different and offer different things. You would have to look at each individual contract and see, what is being offered. And sometimes some of the disadvantages with those plans is it doesn't take care of everything, and your family members are still have to pay additional amounts into that plan. Again, you want to know exactly what you're getting with any kind of pre-need plan. Now, burial insurance, one of the advantages is it's more flexible. You would specify a certain coverage amount. Typically, you would want to make sure that it's going to cover whatever arrangements you want to make. So whether you are considering burial, you want to know the average cost of burial in your area, and then make sure that you have that coverage amount. With that said, final expense insurance would only provide that coverage, and it would go straight to your family member. So it would be up to them to still choose the funeral home and make sure those payments were made to the funeral home for whatever your final wishes are. And so in every case, you just want to make sure communicating with your family members what those wishes are so those could be carried out. With pre-need, oftentimes it's already taken care of. Again, this may be the right solution for you depending on your specific situation. If you know you're not going to move again and you want to use a specific funeral home and you want that taken care of, and that may be the right option for you. But if you're unsure about, maybe you're going to move in retirement, maybe you're going to you're not sure if you want a burial or cremation, or what you want, or you want some of the money to also be left to your family members, then having that insurance coverage might be better for you. So it just really depends on your own unique situation. Going through a funeral home, a lot of times those insurance plans, the beneficiary is the funeral home, so that money goes directly to the funeral home, not to anyone in your family. And there's some people that don't like that arrangement. They'd rather see the money go to one of their family members to be taken care of. And in some cases, the reverse is also true. Some people don't want their family members or maybe don't trust people to carry out their final wishes, so leaving it to a funeral home is more advantageous to their life circumstance. So again, it is just all a matter of personal choice. Before we finish up, I just wanted to do a quick summary of some of the advantages and disadvantages of pre-need insurance versus final expense or burial insurance. So with pre-need, there are three main advantages. One of them is that you do all the pre-planning and decision making ahead of time, so it saves a lot of emotional stress and also financial stress that you have gotten it all taken care of with the funeral home. Secondly, prices are usually guaranteed, which means they are usually locked in. The funeral home will offer you goods and services. You pay a specific amount for them. Typically, they will not ask your family members to pay the difference. This is changing these days with the prices going up and inflation. A lot of funeral homes are going out of business, so you want to definitely ask about this. Also, it doesn't always guarantee everything. So it may only be a certain amount of goods and services they cover, and then your family member might have to come up with the rest. So that is an advantage and sometimes maybe a little bit of a disadvantage. The last one is that the pre-need contracts are usually Medicaid exempt, and you'll have to check with your state on that. But typically these policies are done within a funeral trust. Because they're in a funeral trust, if you should have to do a Medicaid spend down at the end of life because of long-term healthcare costs, a lot of times they will let you keep these plans in place. So what are some of the disadvantages of pre-need insurance? Well, they are not very flexible. Usually the beneficiary is the funeral home. They do not go to your family members. So if there are other costs involved, your family members will not get that benefit. So it is only strictly used for whatever items you are paying for through the funeral home directly. Secondly, not all the pre-need plans can move with you. So if you end up moving states or want to change funeral homes, a lot of times these plans aren't transferable. Then a pre-need policy may not be transferable or non-refundable. So just as I mentioned, if you should want to change funeral homes, it may not transfer to another one. And if you end up changing, you may not get the money that you already paid to one of the funeral homes back. So you may lose that money that you paid into it. Not everything is guaranteed. So if you should pass away before your plan is paid off, it may only cover what you paid into it, and your family members might have to pay the additional amount. So not always guarantees. And lastly, if you make any changes to the arrangements, it could nullify a pre-need insurance policy. So again, with all these policies, it's good when you're doing research to ask funeral homes these questions. What if you should go out of business? By the time I pass away, is this plan transferable? You want to look at all the exclusions in these contracts and make sure you know exactly what you are getting and what you're paying for. Some quick tips regarding pre-need. If you are talking to a funeral home, they are required by state law to provide you with a list or an itemized list of services and items that you are pre-purchasing with your plan. So just make sure that you're asking for that and what the costs are on all that, so you know exactly what you're getting. So now to some of the advantages with burial and final expense insurance. You get to choose the beneficiary, so the money doesn't go to the funeral home. You get to leave that to one of your family members that you love and trust to take care of your final wishes. Next, the funds can be used for any expenses, so not just a funeral, but it could go towards medical bills, towards travel, towards counseling, anything that might be needed after you should pass away. So it's very flexible in that the funds can be used for more than one purpose. Next, it also accumulates cash value within the policy. If you are paying on the policy for a while and accumulating cash, you can take out that cash for certain end-of-life expenses sometimes, or whatever you should need it for. Next, the use of the policy can be used as a charitable gift. So this is an advantage to a lot of people who want to leave money behind to their favorite charity or a church organization. They can use these policies for that. And lastly, the proceeds are tax-free to your beneficiary, can be used for a variety of purposes. So what are some of the disadvantages with burial and final expense insurance? Cost of inflation. So when you get a policy, you're paying for a specific face amount, and often that does not keep up with inflation. So if you purchase that policy early on and you live another 20 years, well, the cost of funerals are going to go up in that time. So often people have to purchase additional insurance at a later stage when the price is more expensive, or they need a pre-plan and make sure they get a large enough policy up front to take care of some of the inflationary costs. Secondly, you must depend on your beneficiaries, so you must be able to trust them to carry out your final wishes. And lastly, depending on your health condition, certain illnesses could cause you to pay higher premiums for your final expense insurance. And if there are any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out. Any questions, I'd love to be able to answer them for you.